What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ball to Bold mini-series. As you know, the Ball to Bold mini-series is an opportunity for me to talk to other men about their hair loss journeys and that intersection with manhood. Today, I got a special guest with me, a good friend of mine, frat brother of mine, Chris Lyle. I've been knowing Chris, for maybe 13 years now plus. I went to undergrad together. And I'm glad to have him all here as our guest today. Chris, talk to the people, introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, interesting fact, etc.
What's up, everyone? Chris Lyle, but as some people call me, C. Lyle, whatever you prefer. Originally born and raised in Germany, but as I tell everybody, I'm from Mississippi. Obviously, attended Carolina with this guy. Currently working at DoorDash, serving as strategy manager of the West. So covering NorCal, SoCal. Interesting fact, one, I speak German. Didn't put two and two together. That's that.
Let's with some German right quick. Hit us with some German right quick.
Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen. Wie geht es dir?
Yes.
Outside of that, I love Carolina basketball, sports fanatic. You know what I'm saying? And 30 for 30 documentaries are like one of my go-tos when I'm just trying to educate myself on the history and everything that's happening in the sports world.
Do you have a favorite 30 for 30?
Sheesh. Well, the one on the U is definitely up there. I'm gonna stick with that one because that one's like the one that came out first. I ain't gonna try to switch it up, but yeah. But actually, they just dropped the other joint, the Mouse in the Palace. That way it didn't drop. It's not 30 for 30, but they dropped it on Netflix. So definitely gotta check that out.
All right, no doubt. The Miami one definitely was super tough. I saw that one. I like the Larry Bird versus Magic one too. That was pretty cool. But like you said, the list goes on and on of some pretty cool 30 for 30. So shout out to ESPN for the good work they're doing over there, telling those sports stories.
Sir.
So you guys know why we're here. We're here to talk about Chris's hair loss journey. Today, obviously, he's rocking the ball, super smooth with it, but we know that it wasn't always like that. So Chris, take us back, man. Take us back to your days, which I don't know if you mentioned this, but Chris was born and raised in Mississippi. Well, not born, but raised in Mississippi. So I don't know if you mentioned that. So we want to take it back to your Mississippi days, Chris, because I know when we talk about come home, home also is a strong aspect to many people's lives. So I want to hear a little bit about Mississippi as your home before we even get to the hair loss journey. Talk to us about your life in Mississippi growing up.
So obviously Mississippi has a special place in my heart. From Ocean Springs, Mississippi, which is on the Gulf Coast. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from New Orleans. For me, going back home to Mississippi, it's just it's a reminder of the simple things. Everyone there is super happy. Life there moves a little bit slower, but it's simple. It's really about family, friends, good food, vibes. It's nothing more, nothing less. You don't get lost in the big city, the glitz and the glam, the materialistic stuff that, you can oftentimes get sucked into from a New York or LA. That doesn't really exist in Mississippi like that. So, for people who listen to Big Crit, he spits about it a lot. It's pretty simple. So, again, nothing more, nothing less.
And is your family still in Mississippi? Do you get a chance to go back and see them often?
Yeah, so my mom and my dad still live in the same home that I guess I was raised in, that I lived in since high school, the same home that we rebuilt after Hurricane Katrina. So, I like to go home. I oftentimes don't get back home as much as I should, especially since the pandemic and everything that's happened. I think it's really kind of reinforced the importance of friends, family, relationships, and, storytelling. Last time I went back, for me, it was the most simple thing, just sitting on the couch watching the NBA playoffs with my dad. Really brings you back to kind of those younger days of, growing up, just watching hoops with your pops or playing hoops with your pops. And so, Mississippi, again, that's where it all kind of started. I ain't gonna say that's where it all ends, but it definitely has a special place in my heart.
That's dope, man. You just mentioned the earlier years. Let's talk about that, man, because obviously we know you weren't bald back then, Chris. So talk to us about what kind of hair looks you had back in the day. Were you rocking the buzz cut, the 360 waves? What did you have back then, man?
Nah, I got you. It's actually crazy. So my dad was in the military. My dad was in the Army. And so being in the military, you have to keep your hair looking a certain type of way, cut a certain type of way. just because you want to maintain a certain standard, right? And so growing up, I had all kind of different haircuts. I remember at one time I had like a low cut, but my dad wanted to get freaky with my hair, so I had like a rat tail. I had like a flat top at one point when I was like 8. And then I feel like it might have been when I was like 11 or 12, I went through this whole like, I'm about to revolt. Like, it's time for the revolution. And that's when I just started growing my hair out, right? And again, my mom being German, my dad being Black, I didn't really have as much of the kinkiness as I wish I would have. So like, you know what I'm saying? When I get my hair braided, my shit probably gonna last like a week. Mm-hmm. Whereas other people's stuff might last like 2 to 3 weeks just because like they have a thicker kind of texture in the hair, so it just sticks more. And so like in middle school, definitely had braids. Special shout out to Lucretia.
Who was doing your braids back then? Was your
special shout out to Lucretia. Come on, man. I just gave Lucretia a shout out. Hey, special shout out to Lucretia. She used to do my hair, $5 to get my hair braided. I'd be there for about an hour. I'm in and I'm out. Special shout out to my mom for always dropping me off and picking me up from Lucretia's house. Super appreciative of that. Yeah, man. And also like Lucretia took the time to put the beads in my hair too. So I got to appreciate the small things, you know what I'm saying? You ain't really do it right if you ain't had the beads in your joints. But yeah, like, so like, I think a part of me, the reason I really appreciated braids is because like every time you got them done, you could do a different design. So you could always be like super creative. Like, you know, you can do the straight backs, you can do the zigzags, you can do the fish bones, you can do this and that. So for me, it was like this element of continuously switching it up.
Yep.
But what I didn't realize, and now I realize it later in life, is when she was braiding my hair so damn tight, she was probably pushing my hairline back.
Come on now.
I mean, like, and like, you know how like you get your hair braided and you feel it in your forehead? Like, she used to do that, and I really appreciate it because like I really had to have tight braids because of the way my hair was. With that said, in 9th grade, I still remember this. Like, it was the last day of school, the day before the last day of school. I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I'm about to hit him over the head on the last day of school. She's like, what? I'm like, let's go to a barbershop. I'm gonna cut my hair off. She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. So we go to the barbershop, cut my hair off. Last day of 9th grade, pull up on campus, fresh fade, just like, oof. Everybody's like, wow. And a part of the reason I did it too is random story, but I used to always go back and forth to Germany. And when I would go back and forth to Germany, again, like I didn't have anybody in Germany to braid my hair. So I would be there for like 3 weeks. And to my earlier point, my braids only be good for about a week. So after like getting into week 2, my shit started getting frizzy. So then at some point I got to take my braids out, wash my hair, and then I'm just stuck wearing out afro. Mm-hmm. But like, if you think about the cultural differences between like the African-American community in Germany, like, you walking around with an afro, I really got tired of people trying to touch my hair, trying to like, you know, be all up in my stuff. And so like for me, that summer, I knew that me and my mom, my sister were going back to Germany. So I was like, I'm not dealing with it again this summer. I'm gonna cut it off right before we leave. So that's what I did. Cut it off. Again, last day of school in 9th grade, went to Germany, whoop-de-woo. And then all throughout high school, this when I started growing a huge appreciation for the shop. You know, I had been in barbershops with my dad, but like these are still like military barbershops, a little bit different of an element. But you know, when you start like getting to like, you know, the culture of the shop and just hearing the conversations, the shit talk, and a lot of conversations that were happening, I didn't understand. Like, you know, you'd have conversations, everything from financial literacy to, did you see that football game, to like, have you seen these highlights, to somebody coming in trying to sell something, and like all these different elements was happening that I just hadn't been exposed to, that I grew a huge appreciation for. Even the music, you know, it's just the energy you feel in the shop. So yeah, and then just had the low cut, and then obviously, you know, Chapel Hill happens, undergrad happens, and then started noticing that my stuff was fading a little bit.
Yeah, let's get to it. So first off, very interesting background. What I'm gonna definitely need from you at some point, I need at least one pic of you with the braids or the rat tail from back in the day, so we can show the people when we get to publish this at a later date. But gotcha. You made that transition. Obviously, I met you in Carolina. Then you had the regular low cut, and then you started transitioning to different looks. And we'll get into that. But do you recall at Carolina when it was that you first realized, like, hey, something is off here? My hairline looks like there's some movement there.
I mean, it was probably wasn't me recalling it. It was probably more or less one of my homies just pointed out like, hey, your stuff's starting to sit back right there. So yeah, I mean, because for me, like I never really noticed it. And like actually the very first person that I think called it out is Uncle Phil. I think Uncle
Mm.
Phil was one of the main people that kept calling it out every time I'd be hanging out with Darius and his family. I'm like, he'd be like, yeah, you're gonna go bald one day. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? He's like, you don't see how your shit, your shit's starting to sit back there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I looked and I was like, oh wow. So then I started cutting it lower. And like another key point here is because of the way my hair is, again, it doesn't have the kinkiness. I could never get waves. So even though I brush my hair, wear a do-rag or put grease in it, I could never ever get waves. So like that the element of like getting waves or needing like a little bit longer of hair just wasn't there. So that's why like I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna start wearing it lower. Wearing it lower means that you got to go to the barbershop more. Going to the barbershop more means that you got to start spending more money. So like it's this whole like element of like you want to budget but look good at the same time. That becomes like a component. And so when I get into the swoosh phase, as like I think you want to call it, or like long story short, I remember talking to my barber Justin and like telling him like, hey, like I think my stuff's starting to sit back
It's like
here.
campus barber. It's like somebody around.
We're in New York at this point, so
Okay.
like post undergrad, post Charlotte, so lived in Charlotte.
Because if you recall the Wiz, so his name is Chris. I call him Wiz again. This is my guy, so we got several nicknames. But
yeah, but y'all don't start calling me Wiz like that. Only certain people call me Wiz. All right, so no ideas. All right.
So Chris, if you recall, after undergrad, I know you went on a Euro trip, and I believe you grew your hair out at that point, right? Or was it senior year that you grew it out? You remember that?
Yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah, so that was also, I guess, a part of the farewell tour of the element of like, you know, I don't know. I just wanted to switch it up. That was senior year. I just got tired of the barbershop. I was like, let me just do something different. And then I knew we were about to go traveling through Europe, and I wasn't gonna find a barber. I was gonna be in Europe for 4 weeks. Yeah. So I was like, well, let me just like grow it out and see what happens. And at that point, like I still had like a decent hairline. It was decently intact, and so I just kind of kept it. But then again, working in finance, you know, when you work in finance, you gotta look a certain type of way, act a certain type of way, keep your face shaved. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't be just pulling up in at least then.
It's changed a bit now, hasn't it?
It's changed a lot now, but then you weren't just pulling up at XYZ bank with like a fro or like hella facial hair. So, you know, I knew as soon as I got back to the States that I was gonna cut it because, you know, I'm an analyst on the desk and I gotta, you know, gotta have a certain standard about myself. You know, you want to signal to the other people on the desk that you're a professional. I was a young professional at the time. And so that was important to me. And so then the transition to New York happens. And obviously I kept the low cut and like, and let me just say this. Let me just throw this out there. Ain't nothing like New York barbershops. I mean, like you have barbershops like all over the place, but yo, New York barbershops are different. Shout out to levels. With that said, I remember talking to Justin, my barber, and she's like, yo, Justin, like, you know, I'm sorry to recede right here. Like, what do you recommend? He's like, well, typically what I recommend for people that are receding is just grow their hair out and just like let it grow versus like continuously cutting it. Because apparently the clippers, like, you know, you're not letting it actually grow. You're not giving your hair a chance. You don't know what you don't know. So I was like, all right. And so I let it grow. It was growing in certain places. In certain places, it wasn't.
Hey, Chris, around what year was this? Do you recall?
So this had to been like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, 2015, 2016. Yeah. And so then grew my stuff
out. Did
you
listen to him? Did you start growing it out? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I started growing it out. And at this point, like I'm still working in finance, but I'm a little bit more tenured. Also, like I have business school in the back of my mind, so I'm kind of like on this pseudo farewell tour, if you will. So I'm less, I care less about my image. At that point, it's like it shouldn't be how I look or how I act or what my hair looks like. It should be like, you know, based on my ability to perform. And so I kind of started growing my hair out also as a way to signal to the bank, like, yo,
I'm almost out of here.
Exactly. And so grew it out. And then because it was receding right here, I started doing the swoosh. So this is where like this is where the German side of my hair like comes into play, and it's actually a huge benefit because like I could actually swoosh it over and do things with it that if it were more kinkier, I wouldn't have been able to.
Yep.
I will send you a picture of the swoosh, or you'll
I
find one
need it
somewhere. But yeah, so that was kind of like how the swoosh came about, and then B school carried it, and like carried it into business school. Try to keep it in business school, and that's a whole another element of the whole conversation.
Hey, so Chris, as we get to this, because I remember the swoosh most definitely, and of course, all of our friends remember the swoosh. Can we talk about the reaction to the swoosh? Like, you knew you were losing your hair, so you were trying some ways to manipulate it a bit. Were people giving you jokes yet? Like, were you hearing it from the outside sources a lot about your hair loss quite yet?
So actually, in the very beginning, when the low swoosh, we're gonna split it between the low swoosh and the high swoosh. I feel like the low swoosh was fine because like I still like have my stuff like lined up on the side. I was still going to Justin. Justin was still like line me up in certain parts, just wouldn't touch my hair right here. So I was still able to like have it look a certain type of way.
So nobody was really noticing then. The low swoosh, like you were covered. Nobody was noticing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's like, but like also keep in mind, my hair was probably my hairline was probably still getting pushed back with time, you know. And so then yeah, I mean again, like I was based on feedback that I received from a certain, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like I was still
it was smooth.
An attractive person in my eyes.
All right. So you get into business school. You come in rocking a low swoosh. You come in rocking a low swoosh in business school.
It was like a mid swoosh, but yeah.
So in business school, I'm sure. I mean, you were vibing. You're doing your thing.
Yeah.
But we know at some point, was it in business school or right after that you decided to shave?
It was during my second year at B school.
Okay.
So a big kind of thing that was going through my mind at the time is like, for anyone that's been to business school, your brand is very important. Your image is very important. And looking back on it, hindsight's 2020, I probably should have went into business school bald, right? Because then that's just would have been like what people associated with me with, like that just would have been my brand, who I was outside of the classroom, etc. That's just what people would remember. Now, I decided to cut my hair second year, which was like a whole like, oh, whoa, like it was a kind of a.
Is this beginning of the second year or sometime during
beginning of the second year? So like, this is like literally like 2 weeks on campus. I'm like, yo, I'm tired of my hair. Like, I had a good ride. It's time to let it go. And so just cut it off. Like,
so what?
And I told my barber. So what?
I say, so what came into that decision? Like you said, you were tired of it, but was it a couple of days that you were thinking about it? Like, yo, it's time for me to do this, or like, where did that decision come from?
So my barber in Philly, his name is Matt. He was cool. And so I would go to Matt because I would still get my hair like cut on the sides. Keep in mind, I had a swoop, so I still had to go to the barber shop and like get my like sides cleaned up and my back cleaned up. So I would still go to the barber shop every now and then, just not as often. And so the whole time during first year, you know, I'd have the conversation with Matt. I'm like, Matt, one day I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna tell you to cut it all off. Don't try to talk me out of it. Just go with it. Just go, because like I don't want to have to overthink it. I just want it to happen. And so I had went out one night and like then I woke up the next morning and like also another thing is like I started feeling my hair was like thinning when I would wash it. Like I had more hair in my hand. I was like, yo, like, is my hair falling out? Like, what's going on? Like, clearly I'm like, okay, like I guess this is a part of the natural transition. And so I woke up one morning and was like, yeah, today I'm just gonna do it. I didn't overthink it. I just went and did it. And then it was probably one of the best decisions I made. It like when I did it, I was like, damn, I feel so free now. Like, I don't know what took me so long to like cross this point. A part of it was the brand. Maybe a part of it was me trying to hold on to something that was so precious to me, my hair. But yeah, I mean, I didn't overthink it. I just went and did it. So.
Wow. So you did it. Barber shaved you clean that day at the barber shop.
And Matt made me
look in the mirror. Like, tell me about that.
Nah. So like Matt was like, yo, Chris, don't worry about it. I got you. He was like, yo, get comfortable, bro. Like, I got you, bro. I was like, all right, bet, man. Just take care of me. And so yeah, he turned the chair around. He didn't let me look in the mirror. So that was like one key thing. He didn't let me look in the mirror. So he like just turned the chair around. I started feeling it. You just see the hair falling. I'm like, all right, it's cool, that's cool. And then like when he turned me around, I was like, damn, shit kind of look kind of solid. I'm like, hey, man, good looks, bro. I really appreciate that. I was so happy because it didn't look bad. Like,
yeah.
And another thing it reminded me of like when I had my low cut in high school and in undergrad. Like, granted, you know, you don't have a fade or anything no more like that, but it kind of, I felt more in tune with my blackness at that moment. You know what I'm saying? My black side versus maybe like when I had the swoosh and like all these things, I was more into my European side. So like that was like another kind of random element of the transition, if you will, that I really appreciated. But yeah, no, I mean, I was hyped. Like that day, I was like out and about, like didn't wear a hat. Was just like, yo, like what's
Oh,
up?
this is good. This is good. So you immediately saw the look and you were into it, which is like empowering already. So tell me about you walking out the shop. You said you were out in the streets that day. What are people saying when they see you? What's the reaction?
So I walked out the shop. I still remember I walked out the shop. I FaceTimed a couple people. They're like, wow. Like everybody was like, wow. Homie JC was like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, bro. Just got tired of it. And then yeah, I went to like a little like kickback thing, showed everybody. And then I really knew when it set it off when I threw it on the ground. And the comments just kept coming. And like a lot of it was shade, some of it was like celebration. It was just like a mixture of emotions, but it was kind of like, I mean, for me at least, it was not a comeback. It was like a celebration. Like it was something to celebrate. Like I was like excited because it's like the final phase, right? Yep. And certain elements of your hair and who you are and who you likely grow to be later in life. And so, yeah, it was a good day.
That's dope, man. And, you know, because we call it come home from now on, the way we talk about when guys finally shave and that first reaction, I'm calling that the housewarming from now on. That's your housewarming. You finally came home and that's the housewarming. So I'm glad you had a good one. You know what I'm saying? Somebody showed up to your door with that fruit cake showing you love and all that. That's super dope, man. All right, so you came home, you peeped it, you out in public, everybody's showing you love. Some people hating, but that's gonna happen. And did you immediately kind of, since you already embraced your look, did you feel like that changed anything about like how you moved in terms of like your style of dress or anything like that? Because you're bald now, so did you feel like you could still just pop out with the jerseys, the Jordans, or did you feel like you needed to change something around a bit?
Yeah, yes and no. So I would say that like, so living in Philly, the first thing that I noticed that I had to change is like when it gets cold, you feel that wind on your head a lot more. And I wasn't used to that. So like that's probably a reason, and like that's probably a reason that I probably bought more hats and had some bogs because you have to keep your head like covered because it'd be brick. Like for real. In terms of like, I didn't feel as though I had to get more like dress clothes, but I did feel like I just felt like I looked different when I wear suits. You know, like
a good difference or bad
like a good different, like a good different. Like I felt like I was more put together in a certain way.
Well, actually, so you know,
like what's up?
You know, there's actually research from Wharton that talks about the power dynamic that changes that bald men have basically. Yeah. So what the like new difference that you felt like you were feeling with that suit on for being a bald man, there's research that backs like, yeah, bald men are perceived to be more dominant, more powerful, more successful, and that probably applies to that feeling that you had there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're probably 1,000% right. I think, yeah, I mean, again, you just throw, and like, it was the smallest of things, like even beyond just, you know, the suits and like how I looked, it was the simple fact that like certain days, if I could just roll out of bed and go versus like having to roll out of bed, look in the mirror, gel my hair, do this and that, like certain, like all these different elements that were kind of a drag. I could just hop out of bed and go, especially like, you know, B schools like this. Yeah. Like that's like every second matters. So that was like an added benefit. But in terms of overall gear, no, probably just more hats, I would say, and that's about it. I know what thinking.
No doubt, no doubt. What about your shaving routine, man? Did you start going to the barber from then on to keep shaving you, or you're like, I'm gonna take this into my own hands? How did you figure out your new kind of routine?
Well, like for me, like back to what I said earlier, I missed the barbershop. So I still wanted to go to the barbershop. So like I still wanted to go hang out with Matt, even though I might not have hair. So like I would still let Matt for like special events though. Like, you know, if like Whitney M. Young's coming up or is XYZ like B school event where we're gonna dress up, let Matt get me right. But every other time I'm just gonna keep my stuff low, you know, shave my own head, and it is what it is. Now I had to quickly learn how to shave my head, which is also
talk about that. Talk about that.
I remember like I started just like cutting it with like a T-liner is kind of how I started. Just because that was easiest, you know, it's just like a buzz cut, just whatever. Um, and then over time, I realized that like there's a better way to take care of your head than just like cutting it with like clippers all the time. So I started transitioning to the razor.
Yeah.
And then once I learned how to cut with a razor and like also saw that like cutting with a razor, my hair, my baldie, if you will, lasted longer. I was like, oh, okay, like this makes more sense. It's more cleaner, it's more smoother. Your hair also, your head is actually exposed, which is good. Like you gotta let your head breathe. Um, so yeah,
Was
but like that took time for me to get there.
what was that learning curve with the razor? Was it, pretty fast?
Yeah,
Did you
I
nick
looked up a
yourself a
couple.
little bit?
Nah, so actually, randomly, I never nicked my head. A lot of people don't believe me, but I looked up YouTube videos on how to do it. I was scared out my mind though before I did it. I think I called you. I was like,
Yeah.
Ken, I don't even know what to get, what to do. And you were like, I hear the pro guys, da da da. And I'm like, okay, I'm trusting you. I just got some shaving cream. It just went mad slow, like super, super, super slow. But after the first time, I was like, I don't know why I was overthinking it. It's not, you just gotta be like careful, be
Yep.
gentle. It's your head. I think when people start nicking themselves, like you start trying to get mad aggressive, or you get in a rush, or you're not paying attention to detail.
Yeah.
So that kind of was my approach. But yeah, I definitely understand everyone. There's a certain process to it, and like this is, hey, bald men need a starter kit,
Put that on loud. Put that on loud.
and bald men need a starter kit.
So, so Wiz, maybe it's been what now? How many years since you came home? 4 almost, maybe
Almost 4.
almost 4 years.
Like 3 going on 4.
Okay, so it's been 3 going on 4 years now. Can you talk to me a bit more about like how you look at the ball look now versus how you thought about it when you initially, came home? Has that changed a lot? Do you feel like you're seeing more people embrace it? Anything about like what's going on personally with you? I'm assuming you feel way more comfortable now, 3-4 years later. But talk about how you're seeing that look now.
So I feel like then when I got it, it was like a convenience. It made my life a lot easier. It made my life a lot smoother. And also it's just kind of a trigger moment that I just was like, I'm gonna do this. I feel as though now, and maybe it's because I'm getting older in life, like when I look around my friend groups, I see a lot more baldies popping up left and right. I don't know if you call that a trend or if you call that just natural progression of people, of my friends getting older. But what I will say is that I do sense more of an empowerment and more of like a dialogue around it than like I was exposed to way back then. Way back then, when I first cut my baldy, it was more or less like jokes flying. You about to go bald, and then you just do it, and then it is what it is, right? I feel like now it's kind of like a signal of like people just leaning in a little bit more into like their baldness and appreciating it and understanding it for what it is, but also like understanding that like just because you're bald doesn't change like your ability to be like an attractive person or like dress well or like take care of your facial hair. Like the element of like self-care plays into it. So there's like all these different dynamics that are important with the baldness factor, that I think again earlier was probably just for convenience versus now it's like a full-on experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's important, man, because obviously I do a lot of talking to bald men about their hair loss and also talking to guys who are still fighting hair loss. And one thing I've realized is a lot of men do believe that like, hey, once I finally shave my head, I'm not going to be as attractive. You know what I mean? And not to say that, a bald head looks great on everybody, but there's a lot of men who shave their head and end up pulling just as many women or men, depending on, whatever your partner is, whichever way that works out for you, are still just as attractive, if not more attractive. So I think there's definitely been a kind of change in the way men with bald head are being viewed. In the past, I think there was a look at like, yo, you bald, something's not right, or like people are not gonna rock with this. But today, like I always tell you, we're up right now. We're up 10 on everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Also, I'm gonna just say I see a close correlation between bald men and beards. I don't know what it is. Like men go bald and try to like get their beard, but I still be seeing bald men with some trash beards. Let me just throw it out there. All right? So, like if you're gonna like be about the whole beard stuff, like make sure you do that stuff correct. Just like you treat your bald, you treat your beard like that. All right, like I don't try to get into the beard lane because I like the low cut shave. Like that's just me though. I know me. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has to know their lane. So I'm gonna say on that.
No doubt, no doubt. All right. So it looks like from here that you got a fresh shave right now, man. everybody that we bring on to this mini series, we got to give them an opportunity to show off the ball. You know, I like to call that the ball check. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna do the ball check right now. Let me see what you got going on, Chris. Show us what you got going on, man. Stop playing with them.
I didn't even shine it up. I did it this morning though, so hopefully it's still straight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will say though, like some comments that I've gotten, like some women have told me I got a nice shaped head. So like, hey, and everybody don't got a nice shaped head. So let's just get that out the room too. But yeah, so nah, ball check. I think I'm straight.
Already. Now you looking money for sure. For sure. Already. All right. So Chris, we're gonna get to the back end of the interview here now, man. I'm gonna ask you some like lightning questions. So basically, give me the first answer that comes to your head when I ask you these questions. All right.
What?
Lightning round. Nothing crazy. Don't worry. Nothing crazy. All right. First things first. We talked about hats a bit earlier. What's your go-to hat? What is the go-to hat that you rock?
LA Dodgers.
LA Dodgers snapback, fitted.
Snapback,
no doubt. Okay. Oh yeah, Chris. You know, Chris is not from LA. He did a short stint in LA, so he likes to rep that.
Wow. Hey, listen, LA has a special place in my heart. Relax.
All right, no doubt. LA Dodgers. Okay. Next question. If you think about all the ball men that out here has kind of paved the way for me and you to shine today, you know what I'm saying? There's tons of them that's already killed it, whether we're talking about sports, you know, movies, business, whatever. There's a list of ball powerful men that are killing it. I need your list of top 3 ball men that would go on the Ball Hall of Fame. Top 3 ball men.
Ooh, I mean, well, you gotta start with 2. So you got Jordan, for sure. Kobe.
Let's go.
I feel like I gotta get somebody light skinned, man. Horse Kojo. Horse.
Okay, no doubt. Next, you talked about self-care as well a bit earlier. So I want to talk about that. Like, tell me, out of all the grooming products you have, it could be grooming products for the scalp, it could be cologne, whatever you use. What's that grooming product that you're like, yo, you can't go without this one product?
Yeah, so actually there's this thing that you can get from Whole Foods. It's like this like coconut butter like lotion, like it's like coconut oil lotion. It like literally hydrates your skin, hydrates your head, hydrates your face. It just hydrates everything. Like that's like my go-to. Just because it's super versatile. You can pretty much put it on anywhere, right? Like it's just a hydration. That's probably number 1. Number 2. Let's just keep it there. That's what I'm gonna say is like that. Also, like make sure that you do actually 2 other things. Make sure that you like, you know what I'm saying, cleanse your face. Like facial cleaner, super important. I feel like especially like Black men, like we don't think to like clean our face. Like daily facial cleanser in the morning and in the evening is super important. And then the third thing that we all need to make sure that we do is put on sunscreen. I feel like we oftentimes forgetting to put on sunscreen, especially if you're bald. Like having that sun directly hit on your head, like that literally can like lead to cancer and like other things that's like not good for you. And so like definitely make sure you're putting on sunscreen on your head, on your face, on the back of your neck. You know, maybe I'm saying this because I live in Miami and there's a lot of sun, or I lived in LA and there's a lot of sun, but like even in areas where there isn't as much sun, like even in the winter when the sun is out, you should be putting on sunscreen. Because those UV rays or whatever, they can still mess you up.
Man, Chris giving us a Ferrero 101 skin lesson right now. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate that. That's dope. Number 4, man. This is the second to last question here. So this one gets a little bit deeper. So obviously, Chris, you know, we talk all the time. So you know what we're trying to build here with Come Home. And you know, a big part of it is kind of helping men through that transition. You just told your story about what it took for you to come home.
Yeah. If
there's some guys watching this right now who are still fighting through hair loss, what would you say to them? What kind of advice would you have for them right now?
I would say first things first, like you don't know what you don't know. And so like you'll never know what you look like bald until you actually try it. I think, you know, it's one of those things that like, you know, when we came into this world, we didn't really come into this world with a lot of hair. And so, you know, it's almost like kind of rebirthing yourself, if you will, like you're reinventing yourself in a certain type of way. And you have to believe in that.
Hey, before you continue, Chris just said something that I got to jump in and say, because one of Chris's favorite lines, he says, is all the greats always reinvent themselves. So exactly. Just mention that. I'll let you go further than that, Chris, but go ahead.
Yeah, all the greats always reinvent themselves. And like, You know what I'm saying? You don't like, also you don't plan for failure, right? So like if you're gonna walk down that path, if you're gonna walk into the dark, you gotta walk into that thing like all the way in. Like when I woke up that morning, I was like, it's going down today. No matter how I look, the confidence ain't going nowhere, the swag ain't going nowhere, my mind ain't going nowhere. I'm still gonna be Christopher Maurice Lyle when I walk out that chair. And that's what it was. Nothing more, nothing less. Just don't overthink it, feel empowered in who you are and know who you are and believe in that and move forward. Never backwards.
That's a word right there. That's a word. All right. Last question here, Chris. One big thing we like to talk about with Come Home, not only is hair loss, but also about manhood, right? So Come Home translates to English to mean like a man or as a man. And hair loss is just one of the things you experience, you know, developing as a man. That's just one of the things. But we experience plenty of other things as well. And, you know, I think there's a reawakening these days about what it means to be a man. I think, you know, there was growing up in the past, especially in our generation, you know, people thought it meant to be a man, you need to be dominating, you need to be super powerful, you need to be aggressive, etc. I think nowadays there's a conversation about what it actually means to be a man. So I want to ask you, been through what you've been through, whether that was getting through Hurricane Katrina, moving to Carolina, moving to LA, doing business school, all things you've been through in life, what does it mean to you to be a man?
So I think first and foremost, to be a man is like to be a man of your community, right? And whatever that your community looks like. For me, my community is very much like friends and family first. And so like a part of being a man in that eye is to not like let them down or do something that shuns upon that community. I think secondly, being a man is also like handling your business and taking care of your responsibilities. You know, there's a lot, adulting's hard, like, especially, and like even beyond adulting, just being a Black man in America is hard. So like, you know, just waking up every day with a positive energy, trying to tackle whatever obstacle or challenge in front of you with the with an all-in mentality, call it a mama mentality, whatever you prefer, just be all in on it. Another important thing for me, at least, is always be willing to bet on yourself. It's a lesson that I learned a long time ago. Like, I'm a big risk taker, but like if I was betting my last dollar, it's on myself. I don't know if I necessarily like equate that with being a man, but a part of being a man is believing in yourself. And so that's why I say that. It's that mentality. And so, you know, again, I think it comes back down to being a man of your community, your friends, your family, your queen, being a man of your like responsibilities and whatever those might be, kids, finances, etc. And then being a man to yourself, like, and believing in yourself and betting on yourself and being willing to take risks. Cutting your hair, going bald, it's taking a risk, like it is. But like,
it's also betting on yourself, like you said. It's also betting on yourself, you know, regardless.
Betting on yourself, exactly. But like, and it's the lowest risk of bets because it's yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna still walk out of that room and you're gonna be yourself. Like you're not gonna lose anything. You're not gonna lose friends. You're not gonna lose family. You're not gonna lose community. You're not gonna lose swag. You're not gonna lose your education. You're not gonna lose shit. Because you're still gonna be you. The only thing you lose is your hair, and that's it.
To that point, Chris, you talk about belief in yourself. Like that's really the only thing you can control. You can control yourself. So like bet on that because you know you have 100% control over that. Everything else is kind of up in the air. You know what I'm saying? But you can control one thing. Make sure you can control that.
Exactly, bro.
That's a word. That's a word. Man, look, Chris, it's been a pleasure having you up here, man. I've been trying to get you up here for who knows how long now. We finally got it done. So I appreciate you for coming through, brother. One thing I'm gonna need from you, I'm gonna need those photos like we talked about. We need the photo with the rat tail, the braids, whatever we're gonna share with the people. But Chris, before we get out of here, man, how can they find you? People that's watching this, they might want to holler at you. Where can they find you on Instagram?
Yeah, for sure. So it's at Lyle the Wild. So CLYLE the WHYL. Feel free to hit me up. My Instagram is public. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on here. Really enjoyed the conversation. Really forced me to think a lot about my journey. And again, to everyone out there that's thinking about it, don't overthink it. Just remember you're gonna walk out that room or that barbershop, whatever it is, and you're still gonna be you. Bet on yourself. If there's anything you take away from this conversation, bet on yourself and bet on your baldie.
Woo! That's a quote. Chris leaving me with a quote. Just I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that quote to end it, man. Bet on yourself and bet on your baldie. Y'all, until the next episode of Ball to Bowl, thank y'all for joining us. Chris, we appreciate you, man, and we'll catch y'all soon.
All right, bro. I'll let you.
All right, man. Later.